Check this out. It's cheesy, it's chicken, it's rice. This is a cheesy chicken enchilada rice. It's really good, and it didn't stay in that bowl very long. So let's make it right now. First up, we need some rice. You know, I probably made rice on the stove once in my life. I learned this years ago, and this is the way I cook rice, in the microwave. The first thing we're going to do, if you haven't seen it before, we're going to give it a rinse 3-4 times in warm water. And we're going to rinse out some of that starch. And you just kind of play with the rice, mush it around. And you can see how the water is turning white. That's the starch. We're going to carefully dump it out. You don't want rice going down the sink. I'm going to repeat a couple more times. Swish it around, put some more water in until the water starts running fairly clear. You're not going to get it perfect, but it'll work. When you're done, you want about 1 inch of water on top. Into the microwave it goes. We're going to put it on for 10 minutes to start. And while we're at it, let's cut up some stuff. First up, this is red pepper, of course. And I love this technique for chopping the pepper without having to worry about the seeds. Just flip it upside down and chop it like that, and you get 90 to 99% of all the seeds. Never have to worry about them. Now, I'm going to do a rough chop here. You can chop them however you want, to be quite honest. If you want them fine, chop them fine. If you want them super big, super big. I just made them chunky. There's a lot of stuff going into this rice. So there you go. That's about a cup out of the 1 pepper. We'll put that aside. Now, I had an onion, but when I went to peel it, I didn't have an onion. So I got about a half a cup of chopped onions I took out of the fridge. The recipe calls for 2 green onions. I'm going to use 4, and hopefully that makes up for the difference in the rice. I'm also going to keep some of the green at the very end out to use for a garnish later. So we'll put that aside. Now here we are at the 10-minute mark. I don't know if you can see it, because now you want to fluff up the rice. And I always do it at the 10-minute because you want to check. Now if you can tell, it's kind of soupy. It's, you know, there's no liquid, but it's still soupy-ish. It still needs a bit of time. Now my old microwave that wasn't nearly as powerful, it was actually a cheap one, it would take another 5 minutes for all the water to absorb. And I was pretty confident about the 15. I've got a much more powerful one now. 3 more minutes and this is going to be right where I need it to be. Kind of like that. The bowl's a little hot, so I'm trying not to burn my hand. So we'll fluff it up. It's not completely done, but that's okay because there's a couple steps towards the end we got to do with the rice. We'll put it aside. Of course, we need some chicken. There it is. It's only half thawed because I kind of forgot about it, but we're going to work with it because it's actually easier to cut the chicken when it's kind of sort of thawed, not completely. I'm going to put it in nice bite-sized chicken chunks. And once again, if you want to make them bigger or smaller, the choice is always yours. However you want to make them is just fine. And any changes you want to make, extra stuff you like, some stuff you don't like, by all means. That's what I do. There we go. There's all our chicken. And I like to do the chicken last after we get all the veggies all set up. That way I can put all my stuff in the dishwasher. We're good to go. A little bit of spices. That was pepper. There's a little bit of salt, obviously to taste. And you don't have to. I find chicken and turkey tend to need a little bit of salt on them. I mean, there's salt substitutes if you don't like salt. Salt and pepper is pretty basic. You want to throw a little garlic powder on it or whatever you can. There's poultry seasoning you could use too. Okay. Now before we get the chicken cooking, I want to make this sauce. So what we need is about a half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of chili powder, and it's supposed to be a quarter teaspoon of cumin, but I just put in a pinch because I find that stuff super strong. And we're going to mix the dry stuff together. To that, can of corn. Just one can of corn, nothing fancy. And we're going to mix all the spices together with that. Now, in addition to the corn, the recipe also called for black beans, a can of black beans. I didn't have any beans handy, so I just skipped that part. You know what? The dish was great without it. So if you want it as an addition, the bean part, go for it. I got to test the corn. Yeah, it tastes pretty yummy. Now that is a can of enchilada sauce. And I thought it was a little soupy at the time. But you know, I could have put in more liquid and it would have turned out just fine. I don't know if the rice absorbed some of it. And if it was that liquidy when we were done, I probably wouldn't like it. But it was nowhere close. So anyway, let's get over to our pan. A little bit of oil. Like that. Maybe a little too much, but we need enough for the chicken because we're going to cook it right now. Medium to medium high heat. Let that oil get nice and hot. Okay, I think we're just about ready. In go our chicken. And now you want to cook it so it's, well, you should cook it till it's completely cooked. If you don't quite get it there, it's okay because it's going to simmer in the juices for a little while. I've got it pretty well done at this point. Now don't clean out your pan because you're going to need it. A little bit of oil back in the pan. Now we're going to saute up our veggies. So we've got our red peppers. And we're going to let that go first for about a minute. Then we'll put in our onions. Just like that. And if you've got some garlic, that's going to go in towards the end. Mix, 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 mix. Ooh, it's looking so good. I don't know, just the smell of onions and peppers. Well, now we got to put our chicken back in. So this is really starting to come together, and I'm just a tad worried because I'm not so sure the pan's big enough for everything we're going to be doing. And I had to use this pan because it's the only one I could find a lid to fit. Live and learn. So now our 2 cups of rice are going in. Ever so carefully. I'm more afraid it's going to plop out or spill all over the stove. But we got it. Look at that. Clean the bowl. Now we're going to mix all that together. And in comes our corn and enchilada sauce. Now this is where I really noticed that we could have put more in. At minimum, don't drain your can of corn. It still worked out good. Mix, 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 mix. There you go. Now we got to put a lid on it and let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. Make sure to stir it a couple times when that lid's on. And like I said, it didn't really get a whole lot of simmering in. It did cook. But here's the final step. Cheese. Now normally I would just go to my bag of Tex-Mex and throw in a cup's worth, cup and a half, whatever covers it. But I had a little extra parm that had been grated and the tail end of a block of cheddar I wanted to use up. So I got a whole combination of different tastes in there. Now the idea is we want that to melt. Unfortunately, it's at the top of the pan, so I can't put the lid back on. I'm not waiting for the cheese to melt all the way through. We got ourselves a spoon and a bowl. Let's get this ready to roll. Oh, it looks so good. And I'll tell you, this dish did not last. I can always tell the keepers when there's nothing left. I'm surprised the pan was still left. A little bit of green onions for a garnish. Looks yummy. And if you got it, I didn't do it, sour cream, little spoonful on top. That'll just be the icing on the cake. And there you go. There's our cheesy chicken enchilada rice. Yummy. Get a fork to eat it, and we're good to go. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this and any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.